Welcome everybody to this faculty development community of practice meeting. We're joined by Gena Merliss from Monroe Community College, and we're gonna do things a little bit differently than we have in past meetings, as I mentioned in some of the descriptions of today's session. Gena's gonna lead everybody through a reflective activity to think about the programs that you're involved with on your campus. Because this is a lot of the work that they do with faculty at Monroe Community College. And we're recording now, but I'll have to just remember to do the pause thing. I always forget. So if it looks like I haven't paused recording, just someone gently remind me to do that. In terms of updates with what's going on in system, as you all probably know, Workplace is going to be done as of March 31st. So next Thursday is the last day of Workplace. And we are working on that, transitioning all our groups there to the Microsoft communities, formerly known as Yammer. And so stay tuned for that. We're coming right down to the wire here. I'm not sure if our group, our faculty development community practice group, will be active before March 31st. It remains to be seen, but there is the FacDev listserv that we maintain. If you're not on that listserv, you can always reach out to me and I'll make sure you're there. It's facdev@list.suny.edu or something like that. So we can use that. And anybody so email me if you're not sure if you're on that. Anybody can post to that list. I mean, I know it tends to be a way for SUNY and the CPD to push out information about events, but if you're on that list, it's a kind of anybody can post to it. So I mean, I rarely see anyone outside of system post to it. So feel free to do that after Workplace goes down to share any announcements about events that are open to the SUNY community or questions for folks who are working in faculty development across the system. All right, well, anyway, I think I'm gonna go ahead and kick things over to Gena. Oh, sorry, Robin, thanks for reminding me to do that. I always forget. So transcription is now enabled. Yeah, I'm gonna kick it over to Gena now. Gena, take it away.
All right, so welcome everybody. It's really nice to be here with you today. And I'm just realizing that if we were doing this on campus in an online setting, there would have been something ahead of time that would have said, in this situation, like our community of practice is really about trying to build trust together and give each other feedback and support each other. And to do that, it's easier to connect if we have our cameras on. And then normally I would add something like, so if you're showing up in your sweatpants, you are welcome. And we are not judging anything about how you look, but it would be wonderful to be able to see your faces if you're willing to do that. So if you can, that'd be great. And if that's uncomfortable, no worries. Welcome anyway. Nice to see everybody. So I feel like I'm a little bit new to many people on this screen. So could we actually just take a moment to go around and just say like who you are and where you are? Okay, that would be really awesome. We all know Chris, so I'll go around. Lori, please start us off.
Sure. Hi, I'm Lori Fox from Geneseo. I'm the Director of Educational Technology. So I'm actually responsible for LMS, faculty support and training, and then the classroom side of the house too, virtual and in person.
Thank you. Brandon, you're next.
Morning, I'm Brandon Murphy. I'm at the College of Environmental Science and Forestry in Syracuse, and I'm the coordinator of the Teaching and Learning Center. And also housed within a continuing ed unit. So I do faculty support, but also sort of branch out into a number of different continuing ed aspects as well.
Thank you. Robin, you're next.
Hi, I'm Robin Sullivan, and I'm a teaching and learning strategist at the University at Buffalo Libraries.
That's great. Laura Schrader.
Hi, I am Laura Schrader. I am the instructional designer at SUNY Fredonia.
Thanks. Jeremy.
Good morning, everybody. My name is Jeremy Youngloth. I'm a learning designer at the University of Buffalo.
Great. Laura A.
I'm Laura Abatello from Onondaga Community College. I'm the academic technologist, basically the Blackboard LMS administrator.
Great. Jennifer.
Hi, I'm Jen Eaton from Hudson Valley Community College. I'm an associate professor and I am the faculty liaison and coordinator for our Center for Professional Excellence.
Great, thank you. And Karen. Well, Karen, if you'd like to come in and introduce yourself later, you'll be more than welcome. So one of the things that we often do in our reflective practice groups, which let me just back up a second. So we run reflective practice groups, which are groups of faculty, staff that come together, mostly volunteer, to talk about their practice, teaching practice, professional practice in relation to students. They usually come with an interest in discussing equity issues, and they're led by trained facilitators. So we use what used to be called the Critical Friends model, but now it's a part of the School Reform Initiative. And it means that we use structured protocols, so conversation, structured discussions to lead conversations so that we can really focus on what faculty are bringing, what staff are bringing, and kind of not go off on tangents, but really support people in their learning. So one of the things that is really important to do at the beginning is to build some trust. And we usually start with something that is low risk. So what I'm going to do is I'm sharing my screen with this really very serious opening activity. I would really like you to annotate the screen. So to do that, you're just going to go up to the area on your screen where it says like you're viewing Gena Merliss's screen. And if you mouse over that, you should see something that says annotate. Sometimes it's in the 3 dots under more. You're going to annotate using whatever symbol you want and go ahead and just put it next to the cat that represents how you're feeling today.
Assistance finding the annotate tool.
Yep, I can't find annotate either. Must be only hosts can annotate.
No, I have it at the top next to in the view options.
Yeah, it's in the view options.
Oh, there it is. Thank you.
I like the people who are circling the specific part about how they're feeling. God, these cats are always just hilarious. Lori, thank you for the arrow.
You know, I'm a little advanced like that. I don't know. What to tell you.
Really good. Nice. It's good, Robin. Well, I'm sorry about number 2. That's a pretty sad. Nice, ready. Good. And I'm not sure who's on number 3 with me, but I just think that cat is hilarious. All right, so before we move on, next, what we really need to do is to just share what the sound is that the cat is making in the one that we chose. And you're just going to come off of mute and share that as you're ready. I'll go first. Mine is saying, woo!
Mine is saying, really, Gena? Really?
Is it Friday yet?
I think mine is singing the Meow Mix commercial. Meow, 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 meow.
Mine saying this is a long week.
I'm number 7, and I think he's saying, oh my gosh, really? Again?
Mine's saying it's Wednesday. We're almost over the hump.
All right, excellent. Thank you for your willingness to do that. Well, this is funny. Now that I have, why is it not letting me stop sharing? Oh, because it's buried. All right, there we go. No grumpy cats here. Thanks, Chris. So yeah, it's often stressful for me when I see somebody doing an opener like that, because I don't like to have to put myself out there like that. And yet I think that there's a lot of value to it. So thank you for your willingness. All right. So we are going to move on to a protocol that's called Microlabs. And so what you need right now is either a place to write or pull up a file so you can type. It's a conversation where everybody is going to have a chance to think deeply about the work that you do and the why behind it. And we're all going to have a chance to respond, and it's going to be timed. And the sort of strange part about this protocol is that we don't respond to each other. But I think one of the things that you'll find is even in not responding to each other, we'll still be building on each other's words, and our conversation will end up weaving itself together. We'll see if that happens with us. It happens often, but not every single time. All right, so I'm going to give you a question, and I'm going to give you a minute to think about that. And I'd like to actually put it into the chat as well so that you can see it. The first question is, what drew you to your current work? And how does your work align with your values? So you're just going to take a minute to think about that. All right, that's it. So I'm going to put our order for the first round into the chat. I don't know how that happened. Did you hear any of what I said? Yes? Okay, so just that I apologize for the lowercase letters. But I just put an order in the chat for our first round. We'll just go, it will go, you'll have 1 minute, and I'm literally going to time it. I'm going to keep my mute off, on. No, I will be unmuted so that you can hear the sound. And one of the reasons for this is sometimes people feel like they have the full minute and they're going to talk all the way up to the end and they're going to get cut off. If you get cut off, just like wrap up what you're saying in like 2 seconds. What you said was as much as we get to hear, and then we'll move on to the next. Sometimes people will find that they cannot fill that whole minute. They don't have that much to say. And in that, if that situation happens, what I'd like us to think about is just taking the pause, and then that's still that person's turn. And sometimes other things come to the top and there's more to say, and that you have that whole minute to fill if you would like. And one of the reasons that we do this, I actually just observed a class earlier this week that really stood out to me, like, oh, I need to do this with our new faculty, because the instructor would ask a question to students and then automatically move on. And there was no wait time. And so this protocol really helps us develop our comfort with silence. And, you know, especially on Zoom, when you're sitting here staring at each other and everybody's silent, that can feel very uncomfortable. We're going to lean into it. Okay. So I am starting us off. Oh, does anybody have any questions? All right, Chris, take it away, please.
So what drew me to the work that I do initially, it was just teaching and my sort of interest in learning more about teaching and learning. And then, learning more about how others teach and their approach to teaching. And, my current work for SUNY is, working with all of you across the system and just kind of getting a sense of how you are all doing that in, again, different ways. I always appreciate new approaches. So this series has been great for that. And it has aligned with my values. I mean, I value very.
Thank you, everybody. So whenever we finish a protocol like this, it's always important to debrief. And in a group, like the reason that in a group that would stick together, the reason to debrief is to get better as a group so that everybody can say, this is what the experience was like for me. And next time I would like it to continue in this way and not continue in that way, so that, sort of build capacity to be critical thinkers together. But in a group like this, where we're not coming back together, it's helpful for us to think personally about what the experience was like, so that if you want to do something like this with your own faculty and your own roles, you think about how you might facilitate it, what the participants might be like. So the question for our debrief is just sort of, what was that experience like for you? What was it like to talk in this way? We're not going to go in any order. You're going to talk if you want, not talk if you don't want. And I'm not going to time it either. Okay, so please.
I really love the minute timer where you kept the minute, like, so there was some silence in between. It actually built in a nice opportunity to kind of reflect. Sometimes I would use that time to frantically modify my notes a little bit. So I liked the idea that you just had a minute timer going and it was the next person's time.
I also just like getting to hear from everybody. And I mean, I think that was a really sort of nice way, especially with a group of about this size.
Mm-hmm.
I thought that was really sort of a nice way to just facilitate getting to hear all those different perspectives and just to hear the overlap that I think, might get lost when you don't hear from everybody.
It's funny, so often, Brandon, I am sad that there's not more people participating, but this size group is so nice that I'm just like, no, this is okay. We're perfect. And I see that in my own workshops too. Like, I would love to have more faculty involved, but quite honestly, 8 or 10 is kind of an ideal number for a workshop. So.
We were just having that discussion before you all logged on, Gena and I, about numbers. And I guess, Gena, can I ask you a question? So is that about the right number, 8 to 10, or are you even less, maybe 6 to 8? Or how do you, and then the other question I had is, how long do you typically have these reflective practice groups meet, over what length of time? And then just, are they usually cohorts of people in is usually a theme, I assume, or cohorts, or how, if you could give us the 2-minute spiel.
Sure. So first of all, this protocol is usually done in groups of 3. And that way, one of the things that I was hearing from you was, oh, I'm saying what everybody else was saying. And I was thinking, oh God, that wouldn't have happened if we went in groups of 3. And it's a easy to facilitate yourself protocol. So but I decided to have it as the whole group, basically because of what you said, Brandon, of I think it's nice for everybody to hear from each other in this context. Chris, actually, when you send out this recording, I'm going to share the actual protocol so that everybody could see it, and give you the link to the website that has all of the different protocols. Okay. Second thing was, how long do our reflective practice groups usually meet and last? So they at one sitting, they're between an hour and a half to 2 hours. I tend to lead them for 2 hours. Some of my colleagues lead them for an hour and a half. Doesn't matter. I don't lead them for more than an hour and a half online, but in person, you know, usually there's snacks. There might be getting up and having a walk and talk there, you know, so there are some activities like that. We also have done it in our first year faculty series, which is at monthly meetings that are required for our new faculty. That isn't exactly a reflective practice group, but we bring in some of these structured conversations to build their reflective habits. And you said, how long do they go for? So usually we say that they're a semester long. So the commitment is a semester long, and we're usually pretty strict about that. Like, please commit for this entire time. It's 8 hours, or, you know, 6 hours or whatever, just to build a trusting community. But then we'll reassess, or your commitment is for one semester. You're welcome to stay for a new year, for the whole year. There are some groups that have a core group that have been meeting for multiple years. And different facilitators experiment with different things, like, you know, less strict attendance versus not. I have colleagues who are very open about people not being able to be there. I tend to be the opposite. I always end up with the smallest group, but I never have trouble having people bring their own work. So the next step is to have people identify, like, here is something that I'm working on in my practice, and you bring it, and then you have sort of a longer conversation that's usually around 50 minutes, where there's a presentation, there's some questions, and then the idea is to, depending on what the question is, but it could be like raising up what are the things that you definitely want to keep that are in line with the person's goals, and where are the gaps, where are the possible places that, you know, whatever the thing is that you're working on are not aligned with your goals. There's a lot of questioning, and it's very focused on one presenter, but the conversations, I think, as you saw today, end up sort of overlapping, and everybody ends up getting some new ideas and deeper thinking about what their own work is.
I can see the value in folks in smaller groups, because then folks get to know each other. I mean, you mentioned kind of, you know, and I was struck, I think, mostly by you asking about our values, right? I mean, I think so often we're asked to sort of talk about what our institutions want, you know, rather than, like, you know, what we're passionate about. And so smaller groups, you can kind of get to know each other a little bit. And you know, like you said, if I came to the group with an idea, you know, and presented it and presented questions for the group to discuss, if you knew me better, you could give me feedback that's more in alignment with what I value and what I'm hoping to accomplish. So
Totally.
is that right? Yeah.
Yeah, absolutely. And it builds over time. Like, goodbye to everybody who has to jump off. I know everybody's schedules are really busy. It's been great having you. So since I lead our training for facilitators, there are a number of people on our campus who've gone through these 5-day intensive trainings together, where they spend, you know, literally 8 hours a day going, like, we make a reflective practice group super fast. Every single person has a chance to facilitate and receive feedback. It's pretty intensive, but people end up, you know, like, very close. Like, they really go through some things together. Anyway, the point about this is I have these faculty and staff on my campus who I've been in those experiences with, and they've been in them together. And a couple times this year, I was like, hey, I have a problem. Who can meet me? And people were like, I'll be there, I'll be there, I'll be there. And we just, you know, sort of ran the protocol just to help each other out, you know, sort of outside of a formal reflective practice group.
All right, well, thanks so much. Appreciate your time, Gena. That was, it was good. It was a nice change of pace, frankly. You know, I mean, it's been great to hear about what folks are doing on their campuses, but, you know, I feel like we don't do enough of our own kind of professional development and reflection. You know, we're doing it for everybody all the time. So
Totally.
this was a nice little exercise for me, at least. So,
Chris, we are, I'm going to send you something else. We're doing a retreat on our campus in June that I'm going to send a flyer. I'm going to co-facilitate it with my mentor who taught, who I trained with. So there is a cost because we're bringing her in. It's $150 for 2 days, 2 full days, but it's going to be awesome because it's like everybody who leads groups with people can come together and sort of get supported.
Yeah, definitely.
So.